Hi, Gabby. Oh, wait. I said hi, Gabby, and then I said, can you change your name to Gabby? It's user now.
Oh, my bad. Hold on. How do I? Hold on.
Okay, it's okay. That we can
Okay,
hear
there
you.
you
And I'm like, hi, Gabby, and I saw user.
go. What am I using?
Hi, everyone. So this is a very good friend of mine. Her name is Gabby. She's from America. She's been teaching English in Asia for a lot of years. All right. So, Gabby, thank you for being here today.
No
Can you
worries.
tell us how many Asian countries have you been teaching English in?
Ooh, okay. So I started off in China in 2015,
China?
and
Okay.
then I did Korea for 4 years and Vietnam for
Korea.
2 years, and now I am in Thailand, and this is my third year here.
Okay, so four Asian countries.
Mhm.
Is there anything in common in education system in these countries?
Ooh, I have to say a big one is probably there's a huge emphasis on testing
Mm,
and test scores. That
okay.
and the emphasis on grades is a lot more than what I saw in America, for example, where we have a bit of an emphasis on extracurriculars and the things that we do outside of academics. Um,
Sorry. Do you think that is the good thing or bad thing? Focus on academics, on scores and tests and all that.
oh, okay. So overall, I can say that there are some pros and cons
Mm,
in focusing on just the academics. One of the pros that we see in education between, for example, Korea and America, Koreans usually tend to score better, and overall, it seems like their knowledge base is a bit more than what we would see in America. I remember teaching eighth grade there, and some of the math that they were doing, I didn't do until like the very end of high school. And a lot of the stuff that I was showing them, they're like, we did that in grade four.
Oh,
So
I've heard
their
that also.
knowledge base is
Yes,
a
yes,
lot
yeah,
different.
I've heard
But
that also.
one area that I see that they struggle in is like the social aspect. They don't have a lot of time
Oh,
to
that's
learn a
interesting.
lot of the social skills because most of
Mm,
their time is spent on academics. Also, like extracurriculars and things that kind of just build you as a person outside of academics, they
mm.
didn't really have as much. Now, that's not a blanket statement for like in everyone, but generally what I've seen, it's mostly academic based and they really don't get a lot of time to enjoy other things
Mm.
outside
That
of that.
that is very true in Vietnam also.
Mm,
Students barely have time for other activities, you know. They just have to study, study, study at school, at home, with tutors, with
mm,
teachers, extra classes. And
yeah,
to be honest with you, I feel really bad for them. And a lot of them, they are under a lot of stress, especially during
mm,
exams, you
yeah,
know. Yeah,
absolutely.
it's not a great thing. All right, so you mentioned something about that. So can you tell us maybe uh, two biggest differences between the education over here in Asia and what it is in America?
Mm, um, I think that from what I've seen in America versus Asia is in America, there's a big push to kind of make the classroom, I want to say, accessible to everyone. In
Okay.
that, if we have students who struggle with certain things, then they have a lot of accommodations that they get for that to kind of help bridge. I haven't seen as much of that in Asia. Now, I do teach in an international school setting, and so we do have quite a bit of that there because, of course, it's very Western lens. And so we do have a lot of these accommodations for students. But that was not the case in a lot of the other schools that I've taught in. It's really like, here is the bar, and you either jump to reach it if you can't reach it, or you just stay below the bar.
So what you mean is by accessible is that, for example, if a student has special needs, for example, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
So like me, for example, I struggled a lot in school. I'm always very open with my students about the fact that I do have ADHD,
Mm,
and that did play a huge role in how what kind of learner that I was. So
mm,
when I was very young and I was in a Montessori setting where there was a lot of choice and there was a lot of agency, and I was able to learn things in a way that made sense to me, I flourished. When I went into the classroom with standardized testing and having to sit still all day, I did horribly.
mm,
So I think that as someone who had to go through school without getting a lot of support because I was a gifted and talented kid, which was like a special title that they give you when you just academically perform
mm,
really
mm,
well.
mm, mm,
And so because I was seen as gifted, I couldn't have what would they deemed a learning disability, which was ADHD. So I went a very, very long time without getting support. I didn't get proper diagnosis and support until it was time for college. So I look at the scores that I made in high school and how difficult everything was versus college. And university was so much easier for me
mm,
than before that because I just had the proper support. So I'm a huge advocate for supporting kids and helping them to reach their goals. So I have to say that's one thing I did like a little bit more about, I guess, the Western system because it's
mm, mm,
definitely not
mm,
just America in that. Now, granted, there are the in Asia it is growing. Like they are getting more support and things like mental health and well-being is becoming way more important than it was. And I think part of it might have been the pandemic, quite frankly, because the pandemic really, really made people sit with themselves because they couldn't go anywhere.
mm.
Like all they had to do was sit with themselves, and people really started seeing the mental health crisis that was happening, being isolated. So even though COVID was awful, and a lot of wonderful people lost their lives in it, it did shine a light on mental health in a way that I don't think I've ever seen before living in Asia.
Mm. I think because you teach in international school, so
Mm,
that that approach is a little bit different
yeah.
compared to public schools, you know, because I think in a lot of public schools they do not really focus on the kids' mental health. You know,
Mm,
I'm not saying that they don't care. It just there's so much to cover.
yeah.
You know, there's this test, this that test. You know, there's so much for the students and for the teachers to cover. You know,
Mm,
so they don't really have time on 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 the kids' mental health, how they feel.
yeah.
And what I don't like over here, you know, as a Vietnamese, because I went through that kind of system. What I don't like is that the system has only one standard, which
Mm,
is the scores. So
yeah.
if you have good scores, you are good. If you don't have a good score,
Mhm.
if you don't have good scores, you suck.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah. Yeah.
know? Yeah, you know, that's not true because I might be bad at math, but I might
Mhm.
be good at English
Yeah.
and the other way around,
Yeah.
you know? So there's not a lot of diversities in terms of the schools and the adults, the parent discover from the kids.
Mm,
You know,
absolutely.
yeah, you know, like there's so many different kinds of intelligence, right? And we should treat kids like that. But right now, the standard is the academics, the score only. And it's sad because if you're not good at school, you might be good at sports or music,
Mhm.
art, something else,
Yes.
right?
I mean, there's so many other options now outside of university. It
Mm,
used to seem like university and the kind of what they sold to my generation was that you have to go to university if you want to get a good job, if you want to do anything. But there are people who are content creators at 15 years old who are making way more money than me, and I have a
I
master's degree.
I want to open a business school, you know,
Yeah,
yeah, you know, I want to teach kids how to make money, not necessarily be rich, but how to
yeah,
be financially independent,
absolutely.
you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Because
And
there's
that,
so many things you can learn from society, from people, not from school, right? Not only
yes.
from school.
Yes. I mean, the amount of things that I learned from school that I use on a daily basis versus the things that I just learned from life and gathering social skills, Like it doesn't match. Like, why am I
True.
learning discrete math? Discrete means like you don't know what it is. And I can tell you because I don't know what it is. Because I was in that class for an entire year and I still can't tell you what discrete math is. But I can tell you that I learned through math class, I learned things about myself. So
Mm,
I learned that it's really hard for me when I don't get a question right because I know there's only one right answer. Versus in English, where as long as I can argue my point, if I can out argue the other person, I'm set. I win.
mm,
So I learned how to face something that's very difficult for me. So when I went to college, I said, all right, I want to do well in math class.
mm,
And because I want to do well in math class, I did not only my homework, but my roommate's math homework. And I went and saw a tutor all of the time because I was determined to kind of overcome this challenge of not being very good in math. And I got an A in math for the first time since fourth grade
wow.
because I saw that, yes, I had to study math and it was a problem for me
Mm,
because it was very challenging and I needed to find a way to meet that challenge. So that
mm.
is what I learned from having to study math. I, I'm not great at math and don't know if I'll ever be super great at math,
Oh,
but having to take math taught me how to overcome a challenge.
mm. That that's why it's very important to learn problem solving skill. You know, a lot
Yes.
of time kids are assigned with very difficult assignment and then they don't know how to do it. And then people and then,
Mhm.
oh, why can't you do it? You know, you so this is so that you're so dumb. You know, she can do it. Why can't you? Yeah, because
Mhm.
she's a different person, you know? So
Absolutely.
yeah, I
Absolutely.
think instead of scolding, instead of criticizing, we need
Mhm.
to understand
Yeah.
what it is, what it really is,
Mhm.
right? So, you know, teach kids how to communicate the problems and then how and teach them how to find the solution,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Um,
And that resilience is super important.
so you have been teaching English and English literature, right? English as a second language and English literature, right?
Yes. Yes. So I've been so the beginning of my time abroad, I taught English like a subject, like literature,
Mm,
to grades 10 and 11. And then I moved to teaching English as a foreign language, which is a very different experience because
mm,
even as a teacher, when they teach you how to teach English as a second language, it does not prepare you to teach English as a foreign language. Because English as a second language is usually when you're in America, surrounded by English all of the time,
mm,
and then you're teaching these students English, and they get it in school and they get it outside of school. It's different than teaching English as a foreign language because the
mm,
only time they get English is inside your little classroom. And
mm.
outside your classroom is their native tongue, their home language. So that was an interesting situation because I don't feel like I was fully prepared for it. And I really
Okay.
learn a lot about learning a language. So
Uh,
I started learning Korean in Korea when I was teaching English as a foreign language
mm.
and it reminded me what it's like to learn a language. And so I really grew as a teacher during that time because teaching English as a foreign language is an interesting task, a very interesting task for
I
sure.
I can teach English as a foreign language, but I can't teach English literature. I can't.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because English is not my first language, you know. So for me,
yeah.
teaching English as a foreign language is not hard because I
Mhm.
know the struggle that other Vietnamese or other Vietnamese students have, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So yeah, that is a very interesting perspective.
Yes,
Mm,
yes. It's not something I understood because I didn't learn English as a different language. I was born in a setting where I only used English.
mm,
So for me, realizing how much of what I do and what I say, how much they could actually understand. So I actually learned, and you met me after I'd already taught English as a foreign language. I used to speak a lot faster than I talk now.
mm,
And now my talking is very slow And depending on who I'm speaking to, my vote completely will change.
why are you speaking slowly to me? You don't
Yeah.
think I
So yeah. And people are like, why do you speak so slow? They're like, listening to your voice message and I had to do it times two. And I was
uh-huh.
like, yeah, I get that because my speaking changes and my vocabulary changed a lot because I needed to be able to communicate.
Mm,
Because every country that I've been in, English is not the predominant language.
mm.
So I needed to learn how to communicate. And that helped me a lot in the classroom, being able to slow down the same way that I'd have to do that outside when I needed to get somewhere in Korea. And so I would have to use very key words that other people would know in order to get where I need to be, honestly.
Mm. Very, very interesting. Right. So you mentioned that you wanted to switch from teaching English literature to teaching
Mm,
well-being, right?
yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people know the term well-being.
Mhm.
Yes. So can you explain in a simpler words what well-being is?
Absolutely. So right now I also teach well-being. I teach English and I teach well-being for one complete grade. And in well-being, we learn a lot about social skills. We learn about time management. We learn about self-management, emotion management. I teach middle school, so we learn a bit about our bodies and how our bodies
Gender. Yeah,
change.
gender. Yeah.
Yeah. We talk a lot about identity. So this is really a class where kids get to actually look at themselves
Mm.
and learn more about themselves and how they fit into their society.
Is that this one? Global
Absolutely.
citizenship.
Yeah. So it does. It connects a lot with global citizen. Who am
Mm.
I in the world? Who am I to myself? How do I care for myself?
Mm.
How do I care for the people around me? So yes, it really does push into global citizenship and the skills that they need to do well in the society that they live in. Absolutely.
That's one approach that I want to start next year with our Vietnamese students
Mm-hmm.
because our Vietnamese students they learn English as a second language, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when they reach to certain level, right, their communication in general is good enough. So that's why I want to start this global citizenship book with them
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
that's when they have they already have a certain level to understand the
Mm-hmm.
terms in this subject, right?
Yeah.
Um, so this one I got to know about this book when I joined a workshop organized by Pearson, the education company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know that company they have curriculum for international schools,
Yes.
right? And then they talked about a lot of subjects that are taught in international schools. And then there was a subject. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I check it out. The good thing is that they don't stop you, they don't prevent you from teaching this subject anywhere,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this subject is only taught in international school, right?
Yeah,
It is not
from what I've
taught
seen.
somewhere else. But then if I want to do it, if I want to pick it and then teach my students, that's
Mm-hmm.
still totally okay, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
So that's a very good thing. And we did some trial classes on this book and the kids loved it so much.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah, yeah, we talk about, personal identity, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
racism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Poverty, right? Yeah. Those kind of skills, I think they are very, very important for the kids to know and to learn, right? Bec because when they go out there, especially in this diverse society, right?
Mm-hmm.
They need to
Mm-hmm.
know how to treat people right.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So that's what I love about this one.
And in international schools, most of our kids usually come from the higher end, like
Family.
economically, and so they really are kind of in a box. They don't really see much outside of their box.
Mm,
And so this really gives us a chance to question things like, Do I have privilege? And what privilege do I have? And do other people have more privilege? We like to do a privilege walk, and I love doing this with my students because sometimes they'll notice that their friend is in a very different privilege bracket than they are, either
Mm,
ahead of them or behind them. And they talk about how they feel like they learned so much more about their friend through doing this activity
mm.
because they realize that maybe because of the fact that they have a two-parent home or the fact that their first language is English. Things like that put them in a different space than some of their peers. And they really don't think about those things unless we kind of bring light to it in a way that they can understand. Because children are amazing and they can understand so many complex things as long as we explain it in a way that they can understand. And I think we should give them the chance to learn these things, even if it is at a younger age. Knowing about poverty in elementary school, yes, it might be uncomfortable, but guess what? This is the world. And there are things that they need to learn and know in order to become great citizens in that world, in that society.
I think children learn better at a young age, to be honest with
Oh,
you.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because when they reach a certain age, they already have their own personality and they already form the way of thinking, you know.
Yes.
So it's harder to teach them something new, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's very interesting to me because our students are from, I know, like middle class family,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
normal family, I would say. So I've never thought that the kids from your school, for example, they
Mm-hmm.
come from wealthy families, right?
Mm-hmm.
I never thought that these simple things, they find it strange or different.
Yeah, like we like to do a big donation for the cleaners who clean our school, and
Mm,
we tell them there's an amazing teacher at my school who runs all of this and tells them about you know even something small like maybe some snacks from 7-Eleven might mean a lot to them. Why? Because a lot of the snacks at 7-Eleven can be kind of expensive. And so that's something that you wouldn't consider going and buying if you have a limited income. These,
mm.
meanwhile, some of my students will spend 300 bahts, just buying a whole bunch of snacks at school and they don't think anything of it. Um, but sometimes 300 baht is what someone has to feed themselves for an entire day. So teaching them about that really, it's amazing seeing how shocked they are
Wow.
about people who make such a small amount versus what they're used to seeing.
Mm. In Vietnamese, we have a saying that means it's it's harder for someone to come from a rich family background
Mm-hmm.
um, to struggle,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yes.
it's easier for someone who struggles to grow. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because that's a way of life. You struggle and then over time you get better, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then if you start at a higher point like this,
Mm-hmm.
and then later in life something happens and then you have to struggle, that's harder.
Oh, absolutely. And this
Yeah.
is a lot as a teacher because students say we're done well. And actually, you know what? I'll use myself as an example. As a gifted kid, I was used to school being easy. And so then when school started being hard, it made me question my entire being. Like,
Mm,
because I was always a smart kid. But if I'm not making the grades, then I'm not a smart kid. And so I would avoid things that were difficult because I didn't want to chance failing versus someone who struggled a lot. They built that resilience. They know how to work for things. I
mm.
never had to work for my grades. So when we got to algebra and they started putting numbers and letters together, and my brain said, "What is this?" And that happened, I struggled and it was so hard for me versus friends that I had who always struggled in math. And they're like, yeah, so I made a bad grade in math. but guess what? I'm learning, I'm improving. And I was like, I don't care if I'm learning and improving. I need an A. Like that was what I was worried about.
Oh
So
my
I
God,
lived
yeah.
it. I lived it. That is absolutely true.
I like to see kids fail. All right, not fail like failing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, getting all A's is good,
Hmm. Hmm.
but getting all A's and a couple of B's and then some C's is even
Hmm.
better
Yeah,
because they need to experience success and failure. You know,
absolutely.
a lot of kids.
Absolutely.
Yes, a lot of kids I have seen that. Especially boys. Yes, right. I have seen they super talented. All right, like
Hmm.
they always got good grades like 8, 9, 10, like 9, 10, right? And like in American it's A, right? All A's,
Hmm.
like straight
Hmm.
A. And then one time they got like 9.5 or 9.5 or something, right?
Hmm.
And then they got upset. And I'm like, what do you get upset? Like, yeah, because I didn't get 10. 9.5 is great. What are you talking about? You know?
Hmm.
So because they're so used to being at the top.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if they're not at the top, they feel like they are failure,
Hmm.
and
Because they
that's
grow
that's
up.
that's not good. That's not good.
No, they grow up with people saying, "You're so smart. You're so smart."
Exactly.
So when
Yeah.
they fail at something, they're like, "Does this mean I'm not smart? Who am I? What is my purpose? Why am I
True. Yes,
and
right.
they question everything about their identity because their identity was the smart kid. And the smart kid does not fail tests. So who am I?
Exactly.
It's
Young
really
Sheldon.
what they
Young
started
Sheldon.
saying.
Do you watch Young Sheldon?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
I mean, The Big Bang Theory, right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. He's a great example of that. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So being talented, being smart is good, but
Mm,
then you need to, and parents, adults, need to teach them that you might be smart, but a lot of times you might be not the smartest person in the room, you
yeah,
know? Yeah,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. You need to teach that resilience that you have to work for things. So when students come to me and a student was like, I made a 37 on my test, I said, wow, that means you understood 37% of what I taught you.
That's
And
good.
so we focus on that.
Mm,
Or I made an 82 and I was like, awesome. That was like, you understood 82% of what I taught you. Excellent. Like if we focus on the growth and not on you're so smart,
mm.
then
Right. On the
it
growth.
really
Yes,
help.
on the growth.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And that's the thing that I really wish that parents know. They need to know how their kids are. Do not compare themselves to other kids.
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
that's the Asian thing, like, oh, he's so smart. I can't you be smart like him? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because because he because he has smart parents. I'm sorry.
They say intelligence comes from their parents. I don't know what to tell you, mom.
I think because he has smart parents. I don't have smart parents. and I don't know where I saw this, but it's hilarious. Anyways,
Mm.
so yeah, they always compare, and then a lot of parents are like, "Oh, you know, I'm I'm afraid that my kid cannot keep up with the other kids." I'm like, "What do you care about keeping up?" You
What
know?
are they running? A race?
Yeah, yes. So you should compare where your kid started,
Yes.
and from that point to this point to now,
Mm.
has he or she made any progress? That's the
Yes.
only thing that you should care. You know?
Absolutely. That's
Yeah,
something you focus on.
yeah. So that's the one thing I want their parents to know. Yep.
Like I don't see a benefit of comparing because it's always said in a way that would make someone feel bad. They're like, well, how come you made a B when Michael next door made an A? Like there's no way to say that would be a way that would make your child feel good.
Mm.
Then it just becomes that kid next door is my enemy and I'm gonna punch him in the face when I walk out. Like, especially in middle school. Like
it's different in how Asian parents discipline and raise their kids, right? And
mm-hmm.
Vietnamese parents are not strict. I
Mm-hmm.
think Chinese parents are strictest in all Asian parents. But I
Awesome.
think, yeah, because they always push their kids. Yeah, you have to work hard. You have to do this. You have to do that. Meanwhile, Americans are a little bit, laid back. Oh, if you're not good, it's okay. You go something else.
Mm-hmm.
I do not agree Hello.
Sorry.
She's almost done. All right. Stop
My, my,
screaming.
my, my cat is Vietnamese and she wanted to let everyone know
Totally.
she agrees.
Uh, so you cut me off now. I forgot. Anyway, so when I have my own kids, I would combine the
Mm,
two ways of raising kids. You know, the Asian way and the American way. You know, you should not be too lenient. You should not be too strict on them, right? Because the parents think, oh, you know, you should discipline them. You know, you should make them work hard. Yeah, that's true. But again, your kid is different. You know, yeah.
absolutely.
So I think if you can balance both ways, now
Mhm,
caring about your kid as a person
mhm,
and know how to discipline them the right way. All right,
mhm.
that would be perfect.
Yeah, because that their home support system is so important to their academic success.
I think that's the most important actually.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, but these days, a lot of parents and families depend on schools, right? It's pretty sad to see. All
Mm.
right, thank you so much. That was a very great talk.
Well, thank you so much for having
Yeah,
me.
oh, it's so Thai.
Oh yes.
How do you say thank you in Thai?
ขอบคุณค่ะ
ขอบคุณค่ะ Okay. Cảm ơn. Okay. Okay. All right. I'm not done. Uh,
You should just put clips at the end. All the outtakes.
I'm so sorry because I like to be formal with you, but
Uh, it's hard to be formal with me. I mean, look, it's me.
yeah, yeah.
Ooh.
Okay. Um, hi Gabby.
How are you?
What's wrong with me? I seriously did not see this coming.
You knew you were saying, let's have a meeting. Me. Have we ever done anything where we're not cracking up?